Ngokosithetha sindivusela lomhlekuseni tinsuku tingamashumi lamabili nesihlanu inyanga yakholwane lusuku loluhle kakhulu lomhla kungolesihlanu kodwa ke luluhle lusuku ngiyadibuta nje nothile ngisakuvusela kwana nawe ngibuka nathi tindzaba bengitibuka kuma headlines this week kakhulu kutebhola some of these stories they are concerning because kusalungiselwa yona season. You can see that some of these decisions there's some disagreements there. Highlanders, the Kusile, and obviously Rapa sticking point there. Lekufuneka ukuthi ilungiseke le hambelana ke nekushintsha kwegama le Highlanders from Babane Highlanders Football Club to Babane Highlanders AM Football Club. There's still that disagreement. Let's say divide the team into two. There's a faction here Rapa and a faction Kusile, and it's stalling a lot of their developments, merchandising, fan engagement. If you really think about it and you dip it, even the commercial optics of the team could also be stalled from this disagreement. See, kubeka ke sibuka nalenye indzaba ye ilovo lesishintshe igama yaba ubombo nanayo ngilenyela sitayiteka kabandi na Fabrice Msonera later on the show. Perhaps there's nothing negative because we know the ownership yayo ilovo ukuthi vele it's always been under ubombo, so nothing is shocking here, but it's quite interesting though ukuthi kwenteka in a season when the Highlanders beyiletha leyo suggestion leyo lefike it was met with some resistance by some of the patrons as well as the management partners there. Sitawusuka ke sibuke neNsingizini Hotspurs lesevele iqalile kwenta ama pre-season preparations ayo. We know that they're in South Africa and they're in a quest to play at least 5 games there in South Africa. How are they matching up? How are they faring against those South African clubs? But most importantly, they are also signing some new players. We saw the wide-dead striker who is revered as a really good striker. Easy going to be a good fit for Nsingizini Hotspurs. We also do want to confirm the stories that we're hearing through the grapevine that it's not only him that is being signed by Nsingizini. There's other players as well, international players that is, that will be signed by Nsingizini Hotspurs. That is our agenda, not forgetting Babane Swallows, which is going through some in-house inventory situations there that are really concerning. We know the change of management. Now there's the story around the repossession of their sprinter. What is really happening in Babane Swallows, because it really started going down south from last season. Is it going to get any better? Fabrice has all the answers at 7:30 this morning. Good morning once again.
That's going to be quite the show. So a very good morning to our viewers. I'm glad to be part of the show this morning. I must say, I'm willing to trade the capital Sviso for Manzini this weekend because we'll have firstly Manzini Original Day happening at Somhlolo Nationals at Somhlolo Park in Manzini,
right.
And then we're also going to have the biggest Braai festival taking place on Saturday at the Mavuso Sports Center, which is why we're actually going to have a conversation on that with Nomcebo Malinga, who is the Senior Marketing and Communications Officer here at Eswatini TV. We are their media partner after all. Also on the program, you can expect myself to have a conversation with David Gunene, who is the Secretary General of a non-profit organization known as Matronsela Gunene Foundation, who will be hosting a an investment conference just tomorrow at the George in Manzini. Otherwise, for now, we're going to have Tinzaba and then we will have our news bulletin at 7.
Yeah. Good morning once again. 4 minutes after 6. Asitubeka nehlelo.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Siphindze sikwamukele ehlelweni sibuke nadidinza futhi Eswati indlu yabayesikhulu seyiphasise isishukumiso sekwekuthi indvuna yetemabhizinisi umhlonishwa wamanqoba khumalo ilethe endlini umtsetfo lokhankanywako kanye nemigomo yawo. Umtsetfo-ke utawuhlanganisa kusebenta kwemlawuli welizinga lemkhicito i-Eswasa kanye nelihhovisi lelibuke lizinga lemkhicito i-Regulatory and Quality Infrastructure Development elingaphansi-ke kwalelitiko letemabhizinisi lesishukumiso siphakamiswe lilunga lephalamende lenkundla kalobamba lomdzala umhlonishwa Mawik Khumalo waseke usekelwa lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yaseKhubutha umhlonishwa Masiphula Mamba.
Nayisaqhubeka nemsebenzi wayo welusuku indlu yabayesikhulu lilunga lephalamende lenkundla kalobamba lomdzala umhlonishwa Mawik Khumalo liphakamise lesishukumiso lachaza ukuthi kuhlanganiswa kwaletinhlangothi letimbili kutolisita live kongene imali nasekuthuthukiseni tekusebenta lizinga lemikhicito njengalamanye emave la kulesifundza.
Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, lama objectives lawa lantu waletiko kule department ya Minister Khumalo nale swasa lama objectives ayaclash. Noma wathatha Mr. Speaker ayaclash. It's the same thing. Now the question would be why besiyakhelani le kanti sitaphinze futhi naletiko sibe nako nakhona letiko lokho. Minister lengikhuluma ngaye ufanele khipha imali afande swasa. Aphinza khipha imali afande the department for the same thing under one ministry for that matter.
Indvuna yetemabhizinisi umhlonishwa wamanqoba Khumalo isemukele lesishukumiso yacela ukuthi indlu ingasachubeki nekusidzingidza.
Emhlonishwa ngicela kuyemukela le motion ukuthi siyoyisebenta itiko njengoba uyivile kumuva nakusekhonda. It's a very technical area lebese sivele siqalile si-interrogate itiko ukuthi singayisebenta kanjani ngoba live liyingxenye ye-organization lebitwa nge-African Organization of Standards lesi subscribe kuyo. Sithola ke i-advice yokuthi sichubeke nalomsebenzi sitabe sesiyakuthatha ke konke ama stakeholders including i-portfolio yethu nema MPs onke bese sibuyisa ke i-board endlini. So for that reason bengacela kuyithatha ngiphindze ngimove ku-agenda debate, Mr. Speaker.
Bahlonishwa sekumuviwe kulena ndlu ukuthi lena motion 8/2025 isale iphasa labavumelana naloko abathi aye labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it and the ayes have it.
Indvuna yetemabhizinisi umhlonishwa wamanqoba Khumalo sekubhekeke ukuthi ilethe lomthetho kanye nemigomo yekusebenta kwawo angakaphele emalanga lange-60 njengekusho kwaso lesishukumiso. Kubika Mbonga Dube, Anasimuva Shongwe, Nabongani Masuku kalobamba.
Umsakato wakangwane sewuqalela uhlelo lokukhulumisana nemaswati lenda umehluko ngendlela letawenda ukuthi sive sikhone kuvana kanye-ke nekubona i-podcast. Umphathi wemsakato wakangwane Sabelo Dlamini uthi lolu hlelo luhambisana nemigomo yemsakato ekuthaneni ube liphimbo lesive. Lolu hlelo lutawuqhutshwa insatheli yawo lomsakato Sinethemba Dlamini. Kanti-ke lolu hlelo lusukumiswe ngalokusemthethweni kumathapha ngalesithathu.
Sinesiliphimbo lesive Eswatini lokusho ukuthi i-mandate yethu kakhulu kwenda siqiniseko sokuthi emavi emaswati angevakali la kangwane kuphela evakale nje emhlabeni wonke. Sonyalo sisukumisa i-podcast kwekucala ukuthi umsakato kangwane ube ne-podcast le both visual and audio. Lokusho ukuthi sihamba sifuna emaswati la ne story to tell. Kungaba bosomabhizinisi, kungaba baphathi betinkampane, kungaba betemidlalo, kungaba bahlabeli, kungaba bathuthukisi bemango, Maswati lasebenza la kangwane noma lasebenza emaveni lento umehluko emaveni lakuwo sifuna le live le Maswati livakale kungumsebenzi wethu thina singumsakazo njengaleminye yemikhakha yebethu indzaba lenzala kule live kuthi sikhulume story seMaswati sivakale ngathi so kwekucala lokuthi umsakazo wangwane ube ne podcast and sijabule kakhulu lokuthi kucale kuliphupho kepha namhla sikhuluma ukuthi lento sesiyayisukumisa siyayilontsha kwemthetho kuthi sekutovakala utawubonela utawulalela emsakatweni utawuphinza ubukele kubomabona kudze bemsakato lobafaka ekhathi YouTube labafaka ekhathi lamanye ama social media handles emsakato ubone lawo ma interviews lesiwendako sikhulumise eMaswati akhuluma tindzaba dawo akhuluma indzaba teMaswati akhuluma indzaba tentuthuko akhuluma tindzaba temidlalo inspire igeneration letako siphinze lo mlandvo nalokukhuluma nalabantu sikugcine kuze bantu labatofaka ngakusasa kangwane bathi ukuthi eMaswati anasikhathi nasi beke nanaku etinhlangothini letehlukene tekusebenta kwelive nemnotho welive
lisemkhankasweni wekucinisa tifundvo tekufundza kanye netetibalo iliteracy and numeracy based education emabangeni langaphansi kusukela ebangeni lekucala kuya kulo libanga lesine lokhu kulandzela imiphumela yelocwaningo lwelibhange lakamhlaba lelikhomba kutsi etikolweni letinyenti eveni bantfwana bafika emabangeni lasetulu solo banebulukhuni bekubala kanye nekufundza. Dr. Nkosinathi Nkambule lobukete mfundo esifundeni sakaHhohho utsi kucinisa letifundvo talolu hlobo emabangeni laphansi kutawuba nemthelela lomuhle njengoba ke kulakhona kuhlanganyeleka kanye njengoba tingcondvo tisuke tisesethambile. Nkambule bekhuluma emhlanganweni nabothishela nhloko betikolo letikhetselwe kuchuba lolu hlelo kulesifundza kusabuketwa kutsi luyasebenta yini.
Dr. Nkosinathi Nkambule umphathi wetemfundo esifundzeni sakaHhohho uthi kwesolakala kwabuchwepheshe kuletinye tetinhlangothi eveni kubangwa ngiko kubate kahle kwesisekelo lesingiso etifundweni tekubala kanye netekufundza.
Lucwaningo lukhombile lokho ukuthi lo mntwana nakangakakubambi lento kusuka kubo grade 1 up to grade 4 vele bese kuphunyuka siphelana akasakukhoni kuyedlula. Lokwenda ke ukuthi ekugcineni sigcina seside labantwana labafunzelana kulesithi ngema-scarce skills uyabona letebunjiniyela letebusayensi letebuchwephesha ngalokuthi isuke le maths ilahleke lephasi e-primary bese kulama lower grade.
Nkambule uchubeke waveta ukuthi lolu hlelo kwanyalo lusetawuchutshwa kuleto letimbalwa tikolwa letikhetsiwe.
Akusito tonke tikolwa tsite lesithi nyalo lelesesikhanze ukuthi silitiko ungasebenta asesikufake kulaba sitobona ukuthi sikucula njani.
Umhlolo tikolwa letincane Vusi Simelane utsintsa letinye tetingcinamba letiholele kulomphumela walelucwaningo.
Lenye letingcinamba kube ukuthi batala basupport kufundza kwabantwana. Lenye tingcinamba athi lo CPE uta nematerial elikhuni kakhulu and bekude nale assessment yekuhlola nje in each and every phase. Let's say nje ka umntwana naphasela grade 2 aphasela grade 2 ufuna kuhlolakala ukuthi kule foundation wente njani ngoba sisi foundation lo grade 1 2 3.
Simelane ubuye waveta ukuthi uhulumende emitameni yokucinisa lolu hlelo usekelwe ngemali lenganga $8 million nguye World Bank.
Kwase sohambi uyotsekela tininti enkosi daka Global Partnership in Education. Lo wasumxhumanisa na World Bank wamnika the loan to the tune of $8 million ukuthi asupport lokufundza kwabantwana kwakheke a strong foundation ngoba kubonakala ukuthi kufundza kwabantwana kuze kusibakhone kufundza kahle mabangeni laphakeme kuyembili kufanele ukuthi babe bafunze batfola letisekelo tingito kulamabanga laphansi.
Lolu hlelo ke seluvele lucalile kusebenta kuletinye tetikolwa eveni. Umbiko nguthabiso Maphanga esipiki.
Kwezemidlalo mengameli wenhlangano lengamele imidlalo yema-Olympics kanye nema-Commonwealth Adamo Mthethwa uthi bayinhlangano kanye nenhlangano lengamele inhlangano temidlalo lapha eveni benda lokusemandleni kuthi badlali kanye netingijimi takuleli itingenele yonke imichutselwano yangephandle kude-ke kutawuphakama lizinga labachutselana ngalo. Mthethwa bekakhuluma uma valelisa licembu leliyawumelela live e-Algeria emidlalweni yetikolwa kanye nelicembu lemidlalo yemadubane leliyawumelela live eveni laseZimbabwe. Lo mcimbi wekuvalelisa lamacembu lamabili bewuse-Olympia Africa kalobamba. Sophesa kanjalo ndzabadethu tesiswati sitakwahlela etimakethe sitabuya sichubeka nelihlelo.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba-researche bafunze.
being risky it means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita lokusembili.
Welcome back to the program. Now, as we know, government is really making strides towards inclusive economic development. Of course, this is not only just a government issue, but also stakeholders and different multi-sectoral partners have had to play their part. This also includes non-government organizations and individuals, that is Eswatini at large, which is why in the studio we're about to have a conversation now on a clan-based investment conference that will be happening on Saturday, that is tomorrow actually. So we're joined in the studio now by David Gunene, the Secretary General of the Matonsela Gunene Foundation, to tell us a bit more about this event and exactly what it aspires to achieve. A very good morning to you, Mr. Gunene.
A good morning to you, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Now, I understand you're having an event tomorrow as a foundation. Start us off with the impact, or rather just break it down for us exactly what can we expect or the discussions to be taking place during this event.
Thank you so much, Madam. I want to greet the viewers at home, and I want to say I'm representing the Matonsela Gunene Foundation, which is a clan-based foundation. But what is of paramount importance to us is that we are actually hosting a conference, which is an investment conference, a first of its type that's going to be clan-led. But of course, we are working with government because most of our initiatives, they are actually government initiatives. So this is the one-of-a-kind conference, not to be missed, led by a clan.
All right, let's start off with the conference. What are the details? Where is it taking place? What time does it commence? And also, who is expected to participate?
Yes, this conference actually is going to be held at the George Hotel in Manzini this coming Saturday, that's the 26th of July 2025. And we are actually expecting all kinds of stakeholders to take part in this conference. We've actually extended our invitation to the government. We have extended our invitation to the private sector, the business community, even individuals, and of course, the Matonsela Gunene clan members. They are actually expected to be taking a greater part of the occasion.
You called it a clan-based investment conference. Let's get into investment. Exactly, what are some of the key areas when it comes to investment that we can expect to be dominating discussions?
Yes, I think the main factor that will be dominating our discussion is the innovativeness of this kind of investment. Number two, it's going to be sustainable development projects that we are actually looking at. So the kind of speaker that we have got here is a guru in ICT. He's actually doing AI. He's also doing blockchain technologies, and he's very strong also on digital technologies to help our systems. He's also doing what is called public-private partnerships, and he's also very strong in eco-city developments. He's quite versatile. So the key areas that he'll be focusing on, it's a youth development, investment in terms of training on AI and blockchain technology, which is a technology that is actually taking a greater part in job creation. That means most of our youth that are unemployed are going to get employment through this innovation. And number two, he's also coming on with what is called a business-to-business portal, whereby our business people will be able to get markets internationally.
Besides the speaker that you're expecting for the event, you mentioned that perhaps the organization wants to undertake certain development projects. Can you enlighten us on these?
Yes, absolutely. The main focus that the organization is actually looking at, it's poverty alleviation and also job creation. Of course, when we are doing this, we have just earmarked one area in our kingdom, which is the Eswatini area, which is somewhere next to the border, next to Piet Retief. And we have visited that place several times. We discovered that they don't have proper inroads. Their roads, they are not properly done. And they don't even have a shopping complex for that matter. They have to go past the fence to get their shopping in Piet Retief. And also they don't have proper water and sanitation in the area. Quite a lot that we discovered. So we thought our intervention will be actually suitable in such a place like Sisingani because they are actually in need of our intervention.
This project that you're bringing to the community, what do you expect of the people? What role do you would you expect them to play to ensuring that the development that you're bringing to them, it is attainable and it is a success?
Yes, absolutely. We actually expecting nothing more than cooperation for the community. We've already engaged them several times concerning the project, and they are actually upbeat about it. They are happy about the project, and they are actually asking us, when is this going to happen? Because it's something that they've been dreaming about for many years. So now for them, it's a dream come to pass.
Can I just interject? You said cooperation. In what sense? Are you expecting them to contribute monetary-wise, or you're just expecting them to avail themselves for manpower?
Absolutely. Thanks for that question. Actually, the kind of cooperation that we are looking for is just for them to avail themselves for the work, and also to say they let them support the work or the initiative that we are doing for them, because it's not for us, but it's for them as well. And of course, they are very happy about it.
Earlier, you mentioned that government is one of your partners in this regard. May you please tell us, how do you think this investment conference, if I may put it that way, the workshop, how does it align with your objectives as an organization? How do they allow with the government's broader national development strategy?
Yes, I think our strategy, actually, it aligns so well with government strategy in one sense that government is actually looking of ways to actually end poverty, which actually is at a very high rate for our kingdom. Also, government is also scratching her head, trying to create jobs for our young population. Most of them, they've qualified, they've graduated from university, from colleges, but there are no jobs. So we are actually meeting government in that respect, that we are going to create the jobs in a sense, and we are going to actually help government with the infrastructure that she also wants to do in the communities, especially with the inroads or the roads that lead to the communities, and other infrastructure, like I've mentioned, the shopping malls and the complexes. And of course, there's a lot of development that we can unpack that is going to happen in that area.
Care to enlighten us more on that development?
Absolutely, Madam. One of the key things that we want to do there, actually, it stands on three key pillars. The first pillar, of course, is the infrastructural development. That's got to do with the what you call the urban development, which is the eco-city aspect that I've mentioned before. And also we want to do what is called an industrial park there, so that we can actually have job creation initiatives. We can actually manufacture things in that place. And also we want to also say, let's build homes and infrastructure, housing infrastructure, whereby people can be properly housed there. We are looking at building good infrastructure for the community. And also in terms of infrastructure, we have to put up shelters, what we call greenhouses for development, then also the roads and also the dams, because we want to allow the community to have enough water. So we have to build for them a dam and also have good water and sanitary systems running in that place. So it's quite a lot in terms of infrastructure. But of course, the second leg of what we want to do at the area, we want to do what is called agriculture, or what is called smart farming. So that is a very important aspect, because we know that agriculture is very key to human sustainability. So what we want to do all kinds of farming. And once we have enough land like we do have in that place, we are going to utilize it profitably, so that we also meet with what government is doing in terms of food security in the country. So that's the second leg. And then the third leg that we want to do is called ecotourism. That's the aspect, because that place is very rich in terms of historic aspect. Then we want to use that to our advantage, so that we can also build hotels and leisure places there. But people will also learn about our historic background and our history as they go there. So that's the three aspects that we are looking at.
All right. Now, I understand the project will probably start off at Eswatini, was it? Eswatini.
Yes.
My apologies on that one.
Yeah.
Are there plans for expansion to other areas as well?
Yes, absolutely. That's a good question, madam. I will say Eswatini is just going to be our starting block, or our starting point. Of course, we are looking at surrounding areas. When we develop a place, we just want to make it so beautiful that we can look at it and say, indeed, this is what the country needs. So when we develop Eswatini area, we have that in mind, that we want to do our best so that we can actually take it as a prototype. Actually, we can export the same concept elsewhere in the kingdom and also in our neighboring states. I should mention this. Our clan actually is in the Southern African region. So whatever we're doing here can also be done elsewhere, like in South Africa, like in Mozambique, like in Namibia. I'm just putting an example where our members can be.
Okay. You mentioned how the project varies from infrastructure to homes, housing, smart farming, and ecotourism. Quite the ambitious plan here. It is already a project in place. May I ask, who is funding this project and what's the value? How much are we talking about exactly?
Yeah, that's another good question. It is an ambitious plan, we should say, but it's not one that cannot be achieved. As we look at it, already we have actually amassed a number of key investors that will come, but we've just brought in just one of them that can actually showcase what the world can do for us. Especially, it's all about cooperation here. We are cooperating with the international community. We have investors coming outside the country. And one of our key investors here is called Dr. Usman Zafar. He's coming from the United Arab Emirates. That one is a very good person, because he comes in with the expertise on one side, but on the other side, he comes in with the investment. Mm-hmm. And then you also asked me about the amount of investment. Although it's premature to disclose the total amount, I will say it's in the region of about plus minus $3 billion US, which is quite a good investment to start off with. But that will not be the end of it, because like you have said, we'll be moving to other places as well.
All right. This project, may I applaud you firstly, quite the deal. It's going to have quite the impact on the people that are going to benefit. How do you see it in the coming years? How do you perhaps see changing lives in terms of the economy in the country? How do you see it having an impact or a role when it comes to the foreign direct investment?
Yeah, I think this project it's going to be very impactful, first and foremost, in terms of the kind of investment or the amount of investment that it's going to attract. Mm-hmm. Hence, when we started the whole thing, we made sure that we engage our AIPA here to say, okay, look at this, we are doing this for the kingdom. Please go alongside, such that even the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade is a part of this thing. But what we foresee here is that the investment is going to help not only the people of Eswatini, but the whole economy in the long term. But now we don't want to blow our own trumpet. Okay. We said let's start small and then we can see it grow. But the impact, it's immeasurable.
Massive. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Gunene, for joining us. That was David Gunene, Secretary General of the Madfonsela Gunene Foundation. This is KBS. Stay tuned. I'll be seeing you immediately after this.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Welcome back. You are still watching Kusile Breakfast Show. Now, the weekend is upon us. So is the biggest Braai festival. I hope your fire starters and Braai tongues are in place. And for this event, Eswatini TV is the media partner or broadcasting partner, which is why in the studio we're joined now by Nomcebo Malinga, our Senior Marketing and Communications Officer. Thank you very much for joining us, Malinga. Start us off with, how ready is Eswatini TV to actually execute their promise to the biggest Braai this weekend?
We've been ready. I must say we've been ready. And once again, we are very excited to be a part of such an important event, as a country, the Kingdom of Eswatini, because, the biggest Braai is not only about people coming together, the citizens of Eswatini coming together, meeting up at Mavuso for just to Braai meet. There's the story behind, which is supporting Pinani Maswati, which is such a huge platform, or rather a foundation that is looking after Banfulabatsala in our communities. So it's very important for us, as Eswatini TV, we need to partner with such initiatives, to be a broadcast partner, to make sure that we push this agenda, publicize, this event that will be taking place over the weekend, as well as supporting Philani Maswati. So we are very proud to be a part of such a life-changing event, that takes place every year in Eswatini. And this is not our first time. We've been a partner for a number of years now, and it really feels good to know that we are giving back to society.
Now, it is the 9th edition. The event just grows bigger and bigger by the years now. What are some of the key deliverables that we can expect?
What is exciting for us this year, we already started, promoting the biggest Braai, prior, because we have to have the post-campaign, the pre-campaign that I've been actually conducting, which included ticket giveaways. So we've been using a lot of our programs, which include the Golden Hour, as well as our social media platforms. We've been pushing, promoting the biggest Braai. So we were giving away quite a number of tickets. The response was very positive. We did see people writing in. We were asking them a few very, very simple questions, because we want to make sure that people actually win these tickets and come and join, leave a local Mswati down at in Manzini, for the biggest Braai. So that is what we've been doing. We obviously in support of everything, that Mr. Lutford is doing, in terms of pushing. This whole event, it's a big event for the country. It takes a lot, honestly, to bring together a lot of people and have people Braai all at the same time, and eat and just break bread together. So for us as a Eswatini TV, we are very proud that we actually did play a role in making sure that this event does become a success, which it will be.
There's a phrase I want to use, because from entertainment to kiddies play area, it's going to be just a hive of activity in the vibrant city of Manzini. How does Eswatini TV plan to cater or accommodate the one individual that probably will not be able to make it to Manzini?
The one individual that will not make it to Manzini can rely on our social media pages. We are definitely going to make sure that, follow our Facebook major page, Instagram, X. We are definitely going to be posting content on the go on our social media pages. And of course, we've got a bulletin every day at 7 p.m. They can catch up on what has been happening go the biggest Braai, as well as our English, but we don't have an English bulletin on the Saturday. But the Siswati bulletin, rest assured, we are going to have a coverage of what has been happening in Manzini. But not only that, as well, capturing a content. This weekend, Eswatini is going to be there. We know that Eswatini lifestyle is going to be there. The golden hour is also going to be there. So we'll be capturing content which was going to be aired in all these different programming at a later stage in our program schedule.
So just for clarity, it's not really going to be a live broadcast?
Yes,
all right.
It will not be a live broadcast.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. I understand now you're going to have our different presenters, but yes, the program presenters will be there, but will Eswatini be getting the opportunity to interact
Most
with
definitely
me, who's probably not just there for content, but they want to talk to Nosile, they see on screen, they want to talk to Nomcebo. How's it going? What's up?
Absolutely. What's going to happen is Eswatini TV will be participating not only on the broadcasting side of things, but we're also going to have an activation in Manzini. We're going to have our gazebos and our branding is going to be out there. So for anyone and everyone that would like to interact with Eswatini TV, we'd like to take this opportunity to invite them to come through and come and join us for that moment, with your favorite celebrity, that picture moment. And of course, we post you on our social media pages. For us, it's also that. It's all about the interaction and putting our brand out there, the brand visibility. So that is what we are going to be pushing at this year's biggest Braai, as well as quite a number, of staff members, our colleagues have actually registered for participation. So we're also taking advantage of this nice, laid-back, fun event. So we felt, let us also use this event as a team building exercise. So we're all going to be there getting content for our presenters and the people that you don't normally see on an everyday, the people that are behind the scenes. So we're also going to be there having fun together, playing games, having meets together in support, of Philani Maswati and the biggest Braai event.
Now it's going to bring together hundreds of Maswati. How do you think this partnership that you have with Philani Maswati now, how do you think it enhances your visibility or our visibility as a station to Bokoko, not only Bokoko, but also the younger generation?
True. I love the fact that the younger generation is going to be the main target, at the event, because it's an event where there's going to be ample of entertainment. And we're speaking entertainment, it's the music, it's the performances from the DJs, it's the music artists that are coming through from South Africa and locally. So we know that there's the young people that will be coming through for the biggest Braai. So that is going to be an opportunity for us as Eswatini TV to actually, have conversations with the young people that will be attending, Bushfire, and making sure as well that we actually have those random interviews with them, find how they feel, what they think of us as a brand, Eswatini TV, and also sensitize, the young people on relevant content that we have that speaks to the young people.
You continue to say, Eswatini TV does, you continue to say you want to position yourself as a leading broadcaster. Now I'm looking ahead at the biggest Braai. We're going to be seeing cultural exchange, entertainment. How do you think this aligns with your vision as an entity to be the one that showcases what Eswatini has to offer?
Right. Eswatini TV, our mandate is to inform, to educate and entertain. And I believe an event such as the biggest Braai will be able to actually tick all three boxes. As you mentioned, there's a culture exchange aspect of it that will be taking place. We've already seen, the Khoi, clan that is in the country currently, and they've been conducting all these tours, and Eswatini TV has been part of that, where they're actually teaching the nation about the history, of the Khois, Ubuntu, where we come from, as African people. So there's that element, that we are seeing that is coming through from that. And then we've also got the entertainment, which we've been talking about earlier, that is going to be an event full of entertainment, and Eswatini TV is going to make sure that we actually cover as much entertainment as possible. And we also have to do what? Inform. So we know that the news team is going to be there, making sure that we pass that information. And of course, the activation, and the interaction that we're talking about earlier. So that is where we're going to be just informing people about, the process that will be taking place during that event. So this is one event that really aligns, with the three very important mending points, of Eswatini TV.
Right. Malinga, thank you very much for your time. That was Nomcebo Malinga, Eswatini TV Senior Marketing and Communications Officer, just giving us the heads up. Kutsi Eswatini TV will be at the biggest Braai Festival. Asambensio Linyama Bongosi. This is Kusile Paper Show. Stay tuned.
ngangiyobeleka bekunalomnye sisi nje satholana lesibhedlela singadani ukuthi sibelekele umuntu munye.
Ngingasho ukuthi umntwana ngiyamehlika ngumuzi. Sathi ngathi umlahla.
Mina bengiphila impilo yokuhlala ngigijima ngaso sonke isikhathi ngekuba bede badala. Ngabe umntwana nami ngitolela naye emapayipini kuNkulunkulu tosisiza.
Akabuyele emuva akhulume amaqiniso. Asunyanyana tena. Angithethi. Into wathi ngimdala. Akasudlala lo mntwana ngakho.
The Platform, your front row to elite perspective. A show featuring real conversations that lead to real growth and impact. About 4 young professionals sit at the table with a champion, an industry leader who's walked the path and is ready to share the blueprint. From bold questions to breakthrough moments, the Platform creates a space for mentorship and practical guidance to help you move your career forward.
If you cannot look after the resources that come your way, you will stay perennially poor. And money usually takes the character of the hand on which it's at. If it's a reckless hand, it lacks custodianship and stewardship. Money will always disappear. I don't care how successful you are.
Something has got to shift and change from the space of the leader. Whether you're sitting as a manager in a corporate or you're sitting as an official in a government space, these young people are counting on you to help them create an environment that is conducive for their dreams, their goals, and their aspirations.
My key takeaways are it's okay to start small and to focus on where you are.
The impact that this show had on me today is, again, just expanding my perspective on how business works from different voices.
Giving you a limelight to say, you can be the best that you can be, regardless of your humble beginnings. I come from Mafutula, and today I am here, and I'm proud to share my story.
Catch The Platform, a breakfast with a champion, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on Eswatini TV.
Welcome back. You're still watching KBS or Kusile Breakfast Show. The Eswatini Stock Exchange has released its quarter 2 review. On one hand, a 12.663% surge in equity turnover, and on the other, a 2.68% drop in market capitalization with no new listings and a decline in the all-share index. Now, to help us make sense of this moment in capital markets, I'm joined telephonically by economist Sanele Sibia. A very good morning to you, Mr. Sibia. The Eswatini Stock Exchange total market capitalization dropped both quarter-on-quarter and year-on-year, with declines in stocks such as Greystone and Inala. What does that contraction suggest to you? Is this a correction or a case of underperformance in certain or specific sectors?
Good morning. So what we're looking into there, and good morning to the viewers. So what we are looking at there is basically a story that is telling of the global risk and the global environment. Because when you look at what has led to this decline in that market capitalization is the poor performance of a couple of stocks, being your Inala Capital, Greystone and Partners, and Swaprop Limited. Because when you look at those are stocks that are dependent and contingent largely on the performance of financial markets globally, and we know that the past few months and actually the past year before we got to that to January and then to April 2024. And when you look at that past quarter, before June, before the election in South Africa, financial markets were not performing very well, and there was a lot of volatility in markets, and also considering global risk. So that is what we are seeing coming through in those numbers, Mr.
Now, there's a staggering 12.663% increase in equity turnover. Does this represent a genuine investor interest, or we're looking at what would be a handful of large strategic trades?
When you're looking at the equity turnover, I would say for me it's an issue to do with large specific trades, and when we look at the performance, for example, of when you look at the performance of, for example, when you look at the performance of Ngonyeni Precast, that was a new listing last year, and it generated quite a number of interest. And if you look at the share price showing a 25% increase, so we can see that there were a lot of trades towards Inala Capital, and also looking at the fact that was now structured in a way that it was going to bolster, it was going to bolster the construction industry, and with Inala Capital being in that sector, with Ngonyeni Precast being in that sector, we did expect to see that. But also what it speaks to is confidence in terms of the domestic market, in terms of being able to mobilize resources within the domestic stock exchange. So now that's a very good figure, showing that there is money to be raised in the Eswatini Stock Exchange. And, another thing that speaks to the issue of stability and security is the fact that we still have the same listed companies, and it's only just 3 share prices that showed a sign of decline. Otherwise, when you look at the other 6 companies there, you will see that the price either held steady, and it's only Ngonyeni Precast that showed a sign of an increase, with that 120%. And then it's only those venture capitalists, those ones that are in the financial markets that didn't really perform well because of the global environment. So that stability in itself does show a bit of faith and trust within the local stock market.
Q2, Mr. Sibiya, there were no foreign listings and no new entrants. Why do you think the Eswatini Stock Exchange continues to struggle with growing its listings?
Now, I think it's an issue of the number one. We know that quite a lot of the companies in Eswatini are actually they are foreign companies. The big companies, those ones are foreign companies. So you find that most of them that we have in Eswatini, they are listed in Johannesburg. It's only the local, the international ones that would have a bit of a high proportion in terms of local ownership that would also mobilize within the domestic stock exchange. And another issue that we note is, Eswatini, there's a growing number of SMMEs, and it is a bit difficult for an SMME to list. Last I checked, the Eswatini Stock Exchange was working around those bottlenecks, taking leave from Botswana to see how they have actually done their SME listing. And I think once we get through that hurdle, then we are going to be in a position to see local companies list even further within the Eswatini Stock Exchange. And once we also are able to deal with the framework and the investor, the equity market framework in Eswatini, then we'll be able to attract more. If you recall, earlier last year, we did speak about the central bank expanding the bankers' mandate in Eswatini to also include, your investment bankers or Islamic bankers and quite a number of those banking facilities. So once you have those on the ground, you will see, because they are the ones that largely facilitate listings in stock exchanges, more especially your investment bankers, because their primary motive is to link investors with money and, to support mega projects of that nature. So once we see that opening up of the sector, that liberalization of the sector, then we should be in a position to see more listings coming up within the local stock exchange. And we also do need to deal with being able to attract, listings from across the board, being able to get companies to come and list in the Eswatini Stock Exchange. So what we need to do there is to make sure that the Eswatini Stock Exchange is able to play in and trade in the global landscape. So automation and the use of app trading technologies is actually going to assist in that. So what we need to do as well is to look at the way we deal with our broker setup. We need to make sure that it's automated. People are able to trade online so that even if a person is in the US, they are able to buy those equities. So once we get through those bottlenecks, we should be in a position as a country to attract, more international listings, because people want to list their companies, but not only do they want to just list, but they want to be able to generate and raise the capital which they want to raise through the market. And you need not just 1.1 million people with, say, around 100,000 people with a demand for those shares, but you need the global economy there. And what you need to do there is to take advantage of the technology that is there to allow people to trade from across the globe, and then building on the stability that we have in the domestic market, then we would be in a position to attract those companies and have them list on the local Eswatini stock exchange.
Right, I'd like for us to discuss bonds in a minute, but first, Ngonyeni Precast was the standout performer with a 25% improvement, and Greystone fell, with more than just 25%. What do these share price movements, what do they tell us about investor sensitivity to business models, exposure and transparency?
Thank you. So what we are seeing there is basically, like I had said earlier on, it's more a telling story of the global environment and the domestic macroeconomic environment. Because when you look at, entities like Greystone and Partners, and you look at Inala Capital, and you look at Swaprop Limited, those ones are largely in the equities market and investing. So when you look at the way the markets were performing last year, there was a lot of volatility, and you would not then be surprised to see that divestment, and you would also wouldn't be surprised to see shares and equities, shareholders shifting their equity holdings to the likes of Ngonyeni Precast, because we knew that at the start of the year, there was going to be quite a lot of capital expenditure, and that's where we expected Ngonyeni Precast to be the number one performer for the year, and we do expect that performance to continue, being stellar as the government continues to implement those capital projects, and we do expect companies like Ngonyeni Precast to benefit and be amongst those leaders in them. And the fact that they were the new kid on the block and they still had a bit of shareholding available, and shifting those stocks them. So it's an issue of both the global environment and the domestic environment, and shareholders being, investors being wary of those financials. We saw a lot of money moving to of those equities. We saw a lot of money last year moving to gold, with gold making, those records. I think gold hit record highs like 4 times last year. So now that's telling of the fact that there was a lot of risk aversion within markets, and the investors were moving to stocks that were likely going to win, and, moving away from stocks that depended largely on the equities markets and, the forex markets and the global markets, basically.
Corporate bonds rose over 21% year on year, and government bonds are now playing at around, over 6 billion emalangeni. What does this trend towards debt instrument, what does it say about investor appetite and government's fiscal posture?
So maybe we start with corporate bonds. So we can see that what that means basically is we saw that increase in outstanding corporate bonds. So that means those are the bonds that are still out there and still require that are still active, and that one totaling 1.91 billion, and with total new issuances of 345 million. So now what that shows is, companies that are willing to expand their businesses are actually broadening their debt portfolio instead of purely focusing on, the traditional loan mechanisms. They are looking at other alternatives to financing their businesses, and the equities market is actually a good way to do that. So that shows that we're seeing that expansion, and also learning from the fact that we're coming from a high interest rate environment. And we know that there is that inverse type of relationship, with that. So we were not surprised to see this shift, more especially coming through from corporate bonds when we saw given the nature of the economy in which we were in. So we saw those, we're seeing that uptick. And then in terms of government bonds, so there it speaks of a couple of things. Number one, it could be that government wants to support the budget, just to fill in the fiscal gap that we have there. But it also speaks to issues of smoothing cash flow within government, and the faith that people still have in government bonds. So it shows that government is somewhat still one of those beautiful listings that you'd expect. But what we are missing in the report, which I had expected to see, was the subscription rate. You have to find out well the bonds are there, but we're not sure how much of those have been subscribed, because that would now give us an insight into what investors think about, government bonds and corporate bonds, because you could list a bond and then no one could be buying it. That's one story, and then you could list a bond and then people could be buying it, and you'll be fully subscribed. Now that's a beautiful story showing that people they have faith in the fact that government is actually going to pay them, or even those corporates are going to pay them. It also gives us an insight into what is happening in terms of investor confidence in those specific sectors. But unfortunately, when we looked through the report, we couldn't find that bit of information, which we're hopeful that in the next quarter, the Eswatini Stock Exchange would present such.
Sanel's Bia, thank you very much for your time and your insights. That was economist Sanel's Bia giving us insights on the Eswatini Stock Exchange quarter 2 review. We'll go for an ad break. When we come back, the traffic update.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
All right, so while we attempt to call our traffic officer, Nosi Pomgo, I must say it's promising to be a bustling weekend this weekend. Starting off today, you can expect the Manzini Regional Day to take place at the Somhlolo Park in Manzini. It's going to be a vibrant day today where SMEs will be getting to showcase their crafts. Also, this weekend in Manzini, you can expect the Eswatini biggest Braai to be taking place. It's going to be a nice weekend, I must say. And also there's going to be the festival, the Gospel Festival on Sunday. It's going to be quite the packed weekend. I'm not sure if we're able to get Nosipho Mnguni on the line. Nosipho Mnguni, Nkovusele, and thank you so much for your time this morning. It's going to be a busy weekend. Ngabe nje imigwaqo elive ime njani?
Anguvusele umsakazo iphinde ngivusele naye umbukeli wemsakazo iSwazi TV lokuvusela konke Sergeant Nozipho Maseko. Imigwaqo yelive laseSwatini sesiyihlolile lesinako ukuthi tiba netemgwaqo letingasebenzi nguleti leti lapha kamanzini eRemand Center. Bashayeli ke bayaxwayiswa ukuthi abanikane inhlonipho babeketelelane lofike kuqala ahambe kuqala. Inkhomo ke iyachubeka tiba sikhinyabetha emigwaqweni lehlukahlukene even eSwatini ikakhulu nosuke enhlambeni uya kumehlwa bovu mhlaba ubovu uya eBhunya mafutheni emahlangambisi mochane uya eSpiki mahlangambisi uya eZihoye. Bashayeli ke bayaxwayiswa ukuthi abashayele ngekucophelela lokukhulu nake tubonela abahamba ngalo baphinde bakhulise umgamu labahamba ngawo. Lokunye lesinako ukuthi umsebenzi eBig Bend wekuvuna umoba uyachubeka. Ikhuluma nemaloli kuyaphithitela ngena khona emshinini. Kuthwaleke ngelinani lelisetulu kakhulu. Bashayeli ke bayaxwayisa ukuthi abagweme ukuthi balandzele emaloli nato tikhulumba tudane. Sigweme ukutendela ukuthi umthwalo nawuwa ungaweli etimotweni tethu. Ngalokunye kumathapha kuyaphithitela abantu labahamba ngetinyawo inani labantu labahamba ngetinyawo lisetulu kakhulu. Basebenzisi ke bemgwaqo labahamba ngetinyawo nalabahamba ngetimotolo bayexwayisa ukuthi abahloniphane banikane emathuba ukuze bafike ngesikhathi baphephile emsebenzini. Singakho lesinato namhla msakazi.
Asibonga kakhulu ngicabana ngixolise for that one. It's Nozipho Maseko, not Nosipho Mnguni. For now, we'll catch a break. When we come back, it's the news bulletin.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
In our news bulletin this morning, His Majesty King Mswati III and Her Majesty the Indlovukazi have commissioned a bridal delegation, Umtimba, for Her Royal Highness Princess Sibahle, who is married to Yasin Nunes from Mozambique, Gatembe area. Speaking during the commissioning of the bridal party at Lutsitsini Royal Residence, His Majesty King Mswati III said this is a milestone and history repeating itself.
It all began with Intombi Mfalo coming out of Indlunkulu and going into the Kepi Baya. The Umtimba delegation departed Lutsitsini Royal Residence to Gatembe in the Republic of Mozambique after being commissioned by their Majesties. Her Royal Highness Princess Sibahle has been sent by their Majesties to build beautiful and healthy relations with the Nunes family. Her Royal Highness on this weekend will get married to her husband Yasin Nunes. This event has happened after a very long time since the last umtimba took place at Lutitini Royal residence. It is also history repeating itself. In history, Princess Mnyingili got married to the Ngungunyane royal family. His Majesty King Eswatini III says this is indeed a landmark and milestone which has happened after so many years since the last ceremony of this nature.
Namuhla siqopha umlandvo kaNgwane kubuka ukuthi emalanga bese kamathe kungabonakala idwendwe lelibonala ukuthi lisuka elizithini. Namuhla ke njengoba umlandvo uquphekile indvo lenhle sesiyithandazela ukuthi ivele sale kuba ligelegele nje lelitawubheka kulandzela. Kube kuhle kuhambeke kahle kepha ke indvo nasesiyithandazele kuNkulunkulu ezulwini nemakhosini netindlovukazini siyati ukuthi ke ukuthi akwendeka. Sekuvele kwendekile.
His Majesty also gave guidance to Her Royal Highness that there is no turning back and going back home when a girl marries.
Lokuhle kuthi eMaswati atiwa ngenhlonipho. Atiwa nangekutimisela kuthi kubonakalise ukuthi nembala eMaswati ayahlonipha ayatimisela ngoba nasa ukhokhwa kuthiwa soyokwenza umendvo lakithi wendiwa kanye futhi ke kunjalo nase ukhokhwa njengoba simkhokha namhla sibahle ashisho ukuthi utafike kumbuya unguva yini ukuthi ngabe kunjani le bese utilungiselela ngidawuphindze ngibuyele emuva ekhaya. Emuva ekhaya nasiyokwenza uphuma liwonke kwate ukuthi nawe soyawuba ngulaba le ekhakhakho lapho wenze khona. Na wenzile ke kuba mqonga kuba nesimilo esikhathini sonke nekuhlonipha nekwati ukuthi bekhakhakho babhekene ungaqhamuki ke usadi ngoba nasu usadi lesikhulu babone nabo ukuthi awusafikelwa la. Tati ke atikavami ukuphumelela kepha ke siyati ukuthi sibahle akasiso sadi ukuthi uyawufika lena bese uba ngilosakubajela ukuthi nenda njena.
The king and Ingwenyama also advised the delegation to show respect and behave themselves throughout the ceremony. Her Majesty the Queen Mother also wished Her Royal Highness well on this journey.
Somandla emakhosi kaNgwane zonke indlela lapho ndawo nyathela khona bekunene sithi indlela ibe yinhle emakhosi kaNgwane ahamba embili kukhanye wena bekunene usikhondela kubomakhelwane Hayibe indlela ngosisi bahle.
To conclude this beautiful event, their majesties danced with the delegation before leaving Lutitini royal residence. The Umtimba ceremony is a traditional wedding for a Maswati, and it's a ceremony that takes 3 days to be concluded. On the first day of the event, the bride, together with her family, go to the in-laws' family. Then on the second day, the bride dances before her new family, while on the last day, she presents her in-laws with gifts. His Majesty then commissioned the delegation to leave for Gatembe as they had a long way to go. Her Royal Highness also bid farewell to His Majesty's Makosigati before leaving the royal residence. Their Majesties have wished the delegation a safe journey and a beautiful and successful event. Present during the event was the royal family, chiefs and royal councils, just to name a few. On the news, I am Polile Mazia with Temba Mamba and Tabiso Dlamini at Lutitini Royal Residence.
His Excellency, the Prime Minister Rasalamiso Dlamini says there is a need to ensure coexistence between people, wetlands, and animals that are habitants of wetlands. He says some of these animals are almost extinct, and this is a common phenomenon worldwide that has resulted to an imbalance in the ecosystem. The Premier said this when delivering His Majesty King Mswati III's remarks at the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Contracting Parties to the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, COP15, on Wednesday.
His Excellency the Prime Minister Russell Dlamini says Eswatini is in support of all efforts promoting the sustainable use and protection of wetlands. He says this is evident in the kingdom's policies and laws, which call for meaningful action to be taken in conserving wetlands.
Eswatini practically witnessed the benefit of protecting wetlands. In one rural community where various bird and plant species that were almost extinct in the area were restored, as well as the recharging of wells and downstream dams. In Eswatini, these wetlands have also helped sustain livelihoods in handcrafts, weaving and art formation, which result in considerable income generation. Wetlands also contribute to sustainable production of certain fruits and fruits. However, urbanization and development pose a serious threat to wetlands, where most of the wetlands have been converted to cities and towns and prime sites used for dwelling places. This has degraded our wetlands habitats, increasing the need to explore innovative construction methods and technology to preserve the remaining few.
Zimbabwe President, His Excellency Emerson Mnangagwa, says abandoning wetlands would be synonymous to turning your back on a crucial part of life. He says although their importance is known, they still face a number of threats.
Indeed, protecting and restoring these vital habitats is key to achieving a sustainable future and ensuring the health and stability of our entire environment. Now is the time for us to change our mindsets and start implementing multifaceted and collaborative approaches towards protecting our wetlands.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the world does not have many wetlands, however, their role is critical to life. He says this is one of many reasons why this meeting should agree on concrete resolutions that will safeguard them and ensure their sustainability.
This Conference of the Parties will consider many important issues, from assessing wetland values and services to critical flyways for migratory species. And as we do so, let us not work in silos, but look for interconnectivity, both in problems but also for solutions. And I do encourage here collaboration and multilateral thinking.
Speakers at the meeting said wetlands are a source of life. They also said the private sector should also play a part in conserving wetlands through funding. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe.
The acting Prime Minister, Senator Kusile, has described the late former DPM, Constance Simelane, as someone who worked hard for government, including having a hand in starting the OVC grant. The acting Prime Minister says she leaves behind a legacy.
The ongoing preparations for the memorial service of the late former Deputy Prime Minister Constance Simelane are at an advanced stage. The acting Prime Minister, Senator Kusile, has described the late DPM and Cabinet Minister as a hard worker and a visionary who worked with passion and dedication during her term in office. She says she brought about a positive change in the functioning of government, including playing a vital role in the implementation of the OVC grant.
Uhamba kwamake Constance lobeka Senator kusimangalise kakhulu sonke singhulumende singemaswati nemakhosi ethu nawo amangele, kepha-ke ibese ithi ngwenyama ngalo msebenzi wakhe make Constance lawendele lelive, akendele lelive kuphela, wendele umhlaba wonke, akanikwe lesigaba sekuthi angafihlwa state.
She says her death is a loss to government, the society, and their majesties. She says she will be accorded a state funeral befitting her status. She says she hopes that all will go well. The news crew then visited the Methodist Church at St. Paul's, where the memorial service will be held. Wandile Njanjali says the preparations are at an advanced stage and going very well.
Amalungiselelo cishe saseqopheleni elisedulu lokunengi lesiva ngathi kuyadingeka sizamile ukuthola lapha nalapha sibhizi nje siyasebenza manje.
For those who will want to bid farewell to the late DPM in Ranting can do so, where the condolence book has been made available at the DPM's office in Babane and will be available for a period of 2 weeks. Reporting, I am Kian MCB with Laleti Mhlanga, Nombendulo Shabalala, and Nokpiwa Mpamali Manzini.
Government is committed to formulating frameworks that support capital markets as a driver of economic development. Strong regulatory structures and robust market infrastructure are essential for the growth of local capital markets, which in turn will strengthen the economy and promote sustainable growth. These sentiments were shared by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Nurekenberg, during the launch of the Eswatini Capital Markets Association at Hilton Garden Inn in Babane.
While we've made critical strides in developing our capital markets, there are still significant gaps in infrastructure that needs to be addressed. Challenges including a lack of liquidity, limits of investment products, and inadequate market infrastructure, which restricts participation. The government recognizes these challenges and is committed to addressing them through strategic investments in key infrastructure. Our plan includes improving technological infrastructure, regulatory frameworks, and market accessibility, which will help in creating a more robust capital market.
The governor of the Central Bank of Eswatini, Dr. Phil Mnisi, has encouraged more intentional investment into the local economy through capital markets, highlighting their role in driving sustainable economic growth.
The issue that we take our funds and transport or export them to South Africa in particular, lots of industries, lots of buildings have been built with Eswatini money. And I think the question is, what do we do about it? My challenge to the Capital Market Association is that maybe make this a top priority to ensure that you have capacity.
The chairperson of the Eswatini Capital Markets Association says the association will play a critical role in ensuring that the industry is effectively governed and positioned for long-term success.
We believe that we need to educate people to be a bit more patient and a bit more circumspect when it comes to investing their cash.
Dr. Melvin Komo, chairperson of the Eswatini Stock Exchange, emphasized that the association will play a major role in supporting the growth and development of capital markets in the country.
This association will therefore serve as a bridge between industry players and policymakers to amplify our collective voice and ensure that our market evolves in line with international best practices.
The Eswatini Capital Markets Association has been established to promote market development, advocate for policy improvements, and enhance coordination among stakeholders and ensure the sound functioning of the capital markets industry. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Derek Msibi, Mbabane.
The Ministry of Agriculture is concerned with the high number of suicides involving pesticides. The ministry met with stakeholders to discuss a way forward of reducing the suicide cases and the misuse of agricultural chemicals.
Upon seeing the alarming rise in suicide cases, especially those who inject different chemicals to commit suicide, the Ministry of Agriculture has gathered stakeholders including the agriculture retailer shops, the police service from the forensic unit, the Ministry of Health and others. Issues discussed includes what can be done to reduce the suicide cases and regulate agricultural chemicals used to commit suicide. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Sydney Smelane, says the masses felt like the ministry is relaxed and doing nothing, yet people commit suicide using agricultural chemicals. Thus the need to have such a forum.
Lumhlangano wethu-ke namhla wekubuketa lokuthi thina njengelive sitawuthatha luphi luhlangothi sitawuphuma sibhekephi ukuze ukuthi sikhone kuwa-controla lama-pesticides angabulali bantu.
Smelane says they do hope that something tangible will come out of the meeting since all stakeholders will share their expertise. Ian McLeod from Eswatini Agricultural Supply says they have regulated and implemented stricter rules when purchasing agricultural chemicals.
Well, we do a lot of safe handling of agricultural training around the country throughout the year and to many organizations. We do this as a service to our customers. And also from our shop in Manzini and down at Matata, we try to advise the farmers to use these chemicals responsibly. And it's also very important in what we do to try and find the safest and least poisonous chemicals for application, whatever the farmers might require.
Tulani Bunene, a forensic analyst from the Royal Eswatini Police Service, says people have been using Lipilis longoburane for the longest time but have since used other chemicals.
RC lotase kuphuma incwadi kucelwa pathologist lotase wenta i-postmortem.
He says the forensic department responds to the crime scene and take the body to the mortuary for further diagnosis and await a report of the cause of death and chemicals involved. He says they do see the rise in the use of agricultural chemicals to commit suicide. Reporting MKN MCB with LinkedIn Kule, Lelith Mhlanga, Nokpiwa Mpamali, and Nombendolo Shabalala, Zulwini.
The Municipal Council of Manzini has received a donation of 150,000 Malangini from the Salvation Army, which will assist young people from Ward 1 in Manzini who make a living through sewing and baking. The donation was received at Zakhele in Manzini.
The Salvation Army has donated an amount of 150,000 malangeni to the Municipal Council of Manzini, which will further go to Ward 1 and benefit especially the youth who will undertake sewing and baking lessons. This is aimed at alleviating poverty and create job opportunities. Manzini Town Council Communications Officer Pumlani Matse says there was a great need for such support and they are truly grateful to the Salvation Army for the kind gesture.
Sidingo se sponsorship sikhulu sidingo sensha yala kaManzini silidolobha ngoba sinato tinhlelo letinye.
Matse says as a council they want to create job opportunities for the youth who are mostly on the larger bracket of unemployment people in town. Therefore, the donation will greatly assist. Major Mabaso from the Salvation Army says they work well and hand in hand with communities, municipal councils, organizations, and they do lend a helping hand where the need arises.
Noma i-aim yethu lokuthi sisite nathi ku-transformation naku-development yebantu noma ngabe kuthiwa i-unemployment kuthiwe ugula tifo letikhona emhlabeni.
Mabaso says the sewing machines will see finished products entering the market and uplifting the youth.
Kude imisebenzi so babukile ukuthi bangazizama ngemishina yekuthunga ukuthi sikhone ukuthunga kube khona libandla leligraduate kubuye kanjalo naphuma lelinye.
Fortunate Ngambule, one of the beneficiaries of Ward 1, says unemployment rate is high. They will see change as many will be interested in further graduate and be self-employed afterwards. She says they are looking forward to the journey and invite young people to be part of the project. Reporting IMKN MCB with Leleti Mhlanga, Nokuphiwa Mpamali, and Nopendulo Shabalala, Manzini.
And moving on to sports, the president of the Eswatini Olympic and Commonwealth Games, Adam Tetwa, says together with the Eswatini Sports and Recreational Council, they are making every effort to ensure that athletes and teams from Eswatini participate in all international competitions, as this will help raise the standard of competition locally. Nteta was speaking during a farewell ceremony for the team representing the country in the African Schools Games in Algeria, as well as the country's athletics team heading to Zimbabwe.
Eswatini will be among the African countries participating in the inaugural African School Games competition to be held in Algeria. The country will be represented by athletes from 5 sporting codes as well as athletes taking part in the Inter-Provincial Athletics Championships in Zimbabwe this coming weekend, where 18 athletes are expected to participate.
The parents, officials of the participants and the athletes themselves, that I want to say that we as Olympic Committee, we are committed to ensure that we participate at the highest level possible and get results. And that is confirmed by the activities that took place in the last three months, that we had developed a high performance strategy. And about 3 days ago, we just concluded a draft of our strategic plan, and which is meant to address the issue of performance.
The Chief Executive Officer of the National Sports Council, Darius Lomo, reminded the teams representing the country that when the government invests in sports, it expects positive results.
The monies that you are given to go out there are for you to make the country proud, to make the country happy. So don't bring us sorrow. We give you money to go out, then you bring us sorrow. You don't want. It then doesn't just tally. So we need to be mindful of that. But we also are aware that we do these things in stages, we grow.
The team traveling to Algeria for the school games includes athletes from boxing, swimming, taekwondo, athletics, and equestrian, alongside 5 coaches. The competition begins on the 26th of this month and will run until the 5th of next month. The athletes traveling to Zimbabwe will be accompanied by their coach, Sbusiso Matsenjwa. Their competition will start on Saturday and conclude on Sunday. Reporting, I'm Linda Dlamini, Lobamba.
And that's all the news I had for you today. Sfiso coming through with our sports segment. Guys, from me, it's been lovely. Take care.
The beats are louder, the vibes are bigger, and the stars are shining brighter. This is The Beatdown, your ultimate music and entertainment fix. With me every Saturday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Eswatini television, Sibuko Semaswai.
All right, we come back on our Kusile Breakfast Show, the Friday edition, with our sports interview. We have Fabrice Msonera, our in-house sports journalist, who joins us virtually today. He's in a remote place, but he's so committed and he loves his job so much. He had to come in and have this conversation with us this morning. Well, Fabrice, a very good morning to you and welcome to the program. We have three top stories that I want us to reflect on from this week that we are wrapping up. And I'm going to go through the headlines with you. The first one just happened on Thursday, just yesterday. CIR stamps his authority. Ilovo's new dawn. Ilovo FC rebrands to Ubombo Sugar FC is the first one. And then I also want us to look at this rather interesting one. Well, this one has been developing, Fabrice, and I know that you have been following it with passion. There is a fresh hurdle as Highlanders is in name change dilemma. The report suggests Raba, Mamkize are yet to reach final agreement. Now, these are two stories, both of which we are seeing name changes, but perhaps different stories in terms of what is bubbling under. But we will also, part of our agenda, look at this other headline that says trouble looming at birds, that is Mbabane Swallows, as debt crisis strikes. I want us to start with the latest one. Ubombo, changing from being called Ilovo, they are experiencing a new dawn. How do you chime into that, Fabrice?
So it's a very good morning for you this Friday morning, and of course the viewers at home as well. I think pretty much, so I would say on the topic of Ubombo Sugar FC, formerly known as Ilovo. I think there's nothing much you really to read into, because when you talk about Ilovo as a club, the main sponsor for a couple of the years since Ilovo has been Ilovo, Ubombo Sugar, they have been the men, the men people in charge of course of the club. So the change of the name, for me, it was a sort of like a formality just to make everyone understand. I was actually giving someone an example to say, if maybe Siso Manzini Seabirds was to change to Swazimed FC, it will be similar to the same case with what we have with Ilovo, because Swazimed fully sponsors the directors and the people in charge. They fully sponsor Manzini Seabirds. So you can tomorrow hear Manzini Seabirds saying they want to rebrand and become Swazimed FC. So with Ubombo Sugar FC, it's a similar case. That's why you'll find that in the case of maybe Swazimed, majority of the employees, they also on top of that play for the team, which is Manzini Seabirds FC. Right. So it will not be a complication if tomorrow we are to hear that Manzini Seabirds' name has changed to Swazimed FC. So it's almost a similar situation. Right. So for me, seeing Ubombo Sugar, not Flyers, Ubombo Sugar, right. Ubombo Sugar FC now being the actual name of the club, I'm not surprised they have put.
Right. Seems as though we are losing Fabrice there a little, but we tried to reconnect with him. He's speaking to the fact that Ilovo, which was popularly known as Ilovo, is now called Ubombo Sugar FC, and part of what is happening there is the team striking 873,000 rather Emalangeni deal with Primo, but there's also the fact that they've announced 2 million budget for new season. Fabrice, as I welcome you back, I suppose you stated very clearly that it's not an anomaly. It's certainly something that shouldn't shock us, this name change. But we are also seeing here, I was just reading the other bullet points under this story. This team has also striked 873,000 Emalangeni deal with Primo, and they've announced 2 million budget for new season. That's a sizable amount. What does this financial commitment signal about Ubombo Sugar's FC's intentions this season?
Yeah, that's a good one, Spencer, because if you look at the sponsorship, then it says now the association or the company, the Sugar Association, now they are fully committed themselves to say, now this is what we put in the club. That's why you'll find that I was actually listening to Linando Andre, the club executive director, saying where they want to take the club. So what they want to see, the image of Ubombo Sugar as an association, they want all the positive results on the field, of course, to reflect on the company. When you ask me the amount of money that they have invested in this club, then I would say it's a sizable amount. I mean, Primo Sportwear, I think we've seen some of the clubs locally, internationally are wearing the same brand, the Primo Sportswear. The amount of money, it's quite a sizable amount. You talk about the kits, the warm-up kits, you talk about also anything training. We'll talk about also when they're in the official, competition, wearing the kit officially. We talk about also the energy stuff they take when they're training. So I think it's a sizable sponsorship in terms of Primo Sportwear. Now, talk about the 2 million. I think that's what we've been talking about, because so now currently, locally to run a club, any Premier League club per month, for a club like Ubombo Sugar FC, one would say maybe the bill will extend to 200,000 Emalangeni. So you can now imagine if per month you have to spend 200,000 Emalangeni, then a season has got 8 months. So that is close to 1.6 million. Actually, that's a sizable, injection in terms of ensuring that the players' salary, trips from one area to another, taking care of also of daily activities, camp and all those things. So for me, I think that's a sizable injection of amount. If a team like Ubombo, they want to compete, probably finish the top 4, take one of the knockout competition. It could be Ngwenyama Cup, it could be the trade fair, any competition that we have locally. So I think for me, that's a good amount. I think we've seen the same case with Mbabane Swallows, which maybe we'll talk about later on, to say if you invest in 3 million per season, then you are saying monthly in terms of salary, you've taken care of the players, you've taken care of the camp, expenditure, you're taking care of the meals, all the necessary for a club to survive for a period of 8 months, because the season has got 8 months. So for me, 2 million is not a shock. It's actually the right budget you need for a club in the Premier League.
But a lot of it, Fabrice, we also do want to acknowledge, because, the article continues to highlight that the club's finance lead and overseer, his name is Mlungisi Mamba, I'm sure you know him, he said that the budget covered the team's wage bill, which was currently sitting at 900,000 Emalangeni, as well as travel expenses and other operational costs that have been incurred throughout the season. I suppose the question there becomes, is this model sustainable, or does it depend heavily on sugar industry backing? But I think the most important question in that is, can we expect a performance overhaul that is going to match, this cash injection?
You would expect that. I think for me, the example that has been done by the Ubombo Sugar FC, it's a way of saying we're in for a great season. I mean, you look what Moreni Pirates is doing, you look what Swallows is doing, Highlander, Wanderers is also doing something behind behind the doors. We'll get to know it soon. So for me, I think it speaks to what they want to know. I was talking to some of the close sources to the club. They were telling me, what, Fabrice, one of the key element now that is going to follow is to get the players that can compete at the highest level. We don't want to be, this is someone from the club and is sitting on the executive table of the club saying, we don't want to be we don't want to be a mid-table club. We don't want to be a team that finishes number 7, number 8, number 9, and then we are safe from relegation. They are saying they want to be a team that could probably finish in one of the knockout competition finals. They want to be a club that could finish in the top 4. So for me, the sizable amount that they have injected in will reflect to what they want to know. They want to do rather. So you will not be shocked if you hear some of the players maybe coming from the big clubs, the so-called your Buffaloes, your Green Mamba, or whatever, or Highlander Swallow, wanting maybe if their contracts are not sorted, but if they're approached by Ubombo Sugar, then they could say, you know what, let's just jump ship. Because another thing with such companies, Fiso, you need to be aware, is the same example I was giving with the with the Manzini Seabirds. You are promised job security. That's one thing you have. If you're a player, knowing that our league is not 100% professional. So if you're a player and you're qualified enough, you have that availability to say you can get access to the job. You can be an employee of Ubombo Sugar FC and also be a player at the same time. So for me, I'm not shocked for them to set the target and say they want to reach the league top 4, win one knockout competition, injecting in 2 million, getting a sponsorship from Primo Sportswear of over 800,000. I'm not shocked. And I think for me, this is an agenda. It is setting an example to the club to say, if you want to run a club in the Premier League, in the Kingdom of Eswatini per season, this is the amount of money that you need. I was giving an example to someone to say, we'll talk about it maybe later. Any club within the Premier League, the expenditures, because we don't have stadiums, clubs don't have a stadium. So today you're playing at King Sobuza in Hlangano, tomorrow you're at Mayaluga, the other day you are at Manzini, which is Mavuso, the next day you are playing at Kilani in Pikes Peak. So any club in terms of salaries and expenditures and movement and transport, at least make sure that per month you can afford to release or to spend close to 200,000 for a local Premier League club. So for me, a team like Ubombo Sugar setting the agenda like that, I think now the money speaks to what they want to do. So in the next week or 2, you will see them going to get the players. They will assign the names. I think this is something that we're going to see soon from the the Lubombo region football club.
Yeah, and I suppose it's such a good juxtaposition. I like the assertion that you're making to say, we should expect this team to compete at a high level, perhaps not in the immediate short term, but with such support, financial support, and just the structural support, you expect a team like this to compete at a high level. And I suppose Nsingizini Hotspurs being a good example there. We've seen how they've catapulted into a team to be reckoned with.
I think you look at what Nsingizini has done. I mean, I also had a chance to speak to some of the officials. They say, you know what? One thing you should understand about Nsingizini now, they are signing international players. They know they have to play for CAF competition next month. They want to also defend the title. So the expenditures probably for them, it could rise maybe to 250 per month. But you have to also look at also what they have done. I mean, they have got what you call brand visibility. When you talk about Nsingizini, wherever you go under the Shiseren region, they have got that brand visibility. So now it's time we start seeing what they can do in terms of representing us out of the country. So clubs now are taking the example from what Nsingizini has done, and we should expect the same from the big 3 being Bamane Highlanders, Bamane Swallows, and Manzini Wanderers. But I think for me, 2 teams that I think so far last season they set the bar so high. I think it was Moneni Pirates and Nsingizini. I think Moneni Pirates did the same thing also by ensuring that the players are well taken care of. The Moneni Pirates, also the brand was there. So I think for me, the brand visibility from club level is what we need to see more often from the clubs. And then that's when the incomes will start being generated. That's when we hear the sponsorship being brought in at club level. So for me, big ups to the good job done by Ndwande, the executive director of Ubombo Sugar FC and the rest. And I think if you have a team like Ubombo Sugar FC, you've got Moneni Pirates, you've got Nsingizini, we've got Bamane Highlanders, Bamane Swallows. These are 5 teams already who are not the so-called forces team, who are now telling us they can sustain themselves for the upcoming season. So then you add the 3 forces team, then you have got 8 teams then you still have other teams also who can maybe try their best. So for me, I think this is what we want for football. Competitive, so it is, and this is what we want to see, changing the image of football.
And of course, speaking of Nsingizini, it's only right we do highlight this. As you know, they gone up for the pre-season. They seem to be very, very committed towards making sure that their players are ready. I mean, we saw the headline on, what was it, on Tuesday, July 22nd, Nsingizini to play 3 SA sides in 5 days. And, you know, we've heard that they've played quite well on their first match. But on top of that, them signing the wide-dead striker, and it's been a top story waking up on Thursday, snatching that striker, pre-season matches. How good are the optics looking for Nsingizini Hotspurs before the season starts?
It's a great move, Steve. So I think for a couple of chances, I've actually followed. You know, I gave myself time to check who is Joel Madondo. Joel Madondo is the striker that you're referring to that they signed. Joel Madondo. He's from Uganda, by the way. He's from Uganda. Plays for the national team of Uganda. So you have to understand the exposure of playing for Wydad Casablanca in Morocco. And you have to understand that Mr. Mokoena recently was the coach of Wydad Casablanca. You know, I think when we talk about Morocco, I mean, these are their countries in terms of football. They are close to achieve what European football have achieved. So getting a striker of that magnitude is coming to our country, getting the exposure of the Northern African football now to play for Nsingizini Hotspurs. They are going for the CAF Champions League, and they just highlighted the preseason tournament. I think for me, they have started early. It's what you need, because CAF competition games in terms of preliminary stages, they start early as August or first week of September. So I think for me, it's a good preparations. Yes, we haven't had a chance because most of this match, they were playing, they were being played behind closed door. But I think reports we're getting, even from the media team of the Nsingizini side, is that everything is going smoothly. Not to confirm these are unconfirmed reports, but I was told that even 2 more players could be signed in the upcoming week or so. Wow. So we have to wait and see. And when they say 2 more players, they're referring to 2 international players.
Wow.
We saw them taking Kwaiki from Babane Swallows. He's an international player, yes, experienced all the way from Ghana, playing for Babane Swallows. He was the captain. They brought him in, strengthening that defense. I think for me, that was a great move. Now they have got Joel Madondo from Uganda. He was actually part of the squad that played the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations when Uganda was in the AFCON. So Madondo was there. So for them to get a striker of that magnitude to come here and show us what he can do for the local league. But I think for me, it's a great move. I'm not saying that they will go all the way to win the CAF Champions League, but I think I give them a chance to go as far as maybe make it to the CAF group stages.
Yeah, perhaps from an upward looking trajectory for obviously Ilovo, which is now Ubombo FC, to Nsingizini, which is also looking really good in terms of what they want to do in the upcoming season. We are also awake to the stories that are happening at Babane Swallows. I mean, it's been dwindling since pretty much last season. We saw they lost a lot of players due to, the inventory that they have to fix in the house. But these headlines that hit us this week, Fabrice, the mood couldn't be more different. There's a threat of repossession. There's obviously the story around financial strain, internal clashes signaling deepening instability. What do you make of the threats around the Sprinter reposition and the eviction from the training ground reveal about the depth of Swallows' financial woes going forward?
I think more than anything, so what we need to understand here is that the club has got new investors from the Republic of Mozambique, and they went on to also sign a coach in the name of Diego Monteiro, a former Mamelodi Sundowns. The coach played for Mamelodi Sundowns, SuperSport United. I also had a spell in Portugal. They're doing quite well in terms of what they want to see going forward. And having a one word with one of the sponsors or the investors of the club. I mean, my question was the 3 million that they have invested in. Is it a 3 million per season or 3 million for 3 years? And I think it was clear that that will be discussed to see if the 3 million really is going to be for one season or going for the 3 years. Now, what am I bringing the issue of finances? Then that will clear all the issues that you just highlighted, the issue of clubhouse, the issue of playing the salaries. Off record, also from another, inside source said the last experience salary in terms of them being paid, that was 6 months ago. That was back in January. So you can imagine the struggles they have been through. Some of the players, leaving Kwake and the likes. So the issues, related to the sprinter. Then the question comes: who owns the sprinter? Who has the papers of the sprinter? Who is in charge of the sprinter? Then you have to also say maybe the new executive that has come in, the new investor that has signed in the papers, has decided to say, you know what? Let's clear anything that you're using prior to my existence. Let's clear it. Let it go. I will then come with my own, transportation. Probably a new brand of sponsorship, because these are things that are still, to be discussed. Because I did ask the coach to say, "Are you going to bring your own technical bench?" And he said, "You know what? I don't want to lie to you. The goalkeeper already, I can confirm he's coming as the new goalkeeper. But what happens to the likes of Caesar King Pele, who was the fitness coach? Are they going to be fired?" And these are the people I would say, Swiso, they're still contracted to the club. How do you let them go? You have to pay them out. Transport, you just mentioned the issue of sprinter. These are the issues that the new investors will have to clear, because as we speak, the team has got a lot of debts that are not yet paid for from the previous season. So this investor will have to clear that. So the threats that you are saying, it's not to say maybe, but we use the narrative that in local language they say, "Sebehlulekile already."
Yeah.
No, one would say, no, they haven't really started working. And when they started working, clearing these debts, financing the players who probably haven't received their salaries, then they will clear all these things to say, you know what, can we now own the bus or the sprinter at full hands? Can we bring maybe our own sprinter? Can we change the training facility? Can we change the clubhouse? The reason why all these stories are coming in the public media saying that they have to take the buses is because they still have debts that they have to pay. So
Right.
the investor would have to clear all these debts that are showing up publicly, which I don't think it's a shame, because when you hear the likes of Mabuza, who is also an executive member, the governor of the club, he says, "We are broke." That was prior to the investors. He acknowledged that they were broke. So if someone was come to say, "Let me buy anything that you are selling," they could have agreed. But now with the new investor, things feel so they will be able to pay all these debts from the previous season, and probably the issue of sprinter will be a thing of the past.
Whew, that's a mouthful, Fabrice. And I'm just thinking about it now. Our conversation is really premised on changes on the Ilovo to Ubombo FC. There's also changes at Nsingizeni with regards to the personnel, that is the players. Of course, the changes at Mbabane Swallows, which have invited all these problems. And now at Highlanders, and I suppose we dedicate this remaining 8 minutes to the changes at Highlanders, where we are seeing that a name change that is supposed to usher in a new era is stalled at a disagreement caught between Mamkhize and, of course, Rabah. What is the sticking situation here? Where is the sticking point between Mamkhize and Rabah? Because things seemed as though we're starting to look good for them as they make these new changes.
Okay, it's a good one, Steve. So I think it's one aspect that actually I've given myself. Actually, I was also looking into something also this morning to say, you cannot really blame Rabah supporters and Mamkhize supporters at the same point. But you've then have got a group of Highlander supporters who want both of them in one basket, which I don't think it's a bad idea. But now the issue is, if you really want Mamkhize to do her personal job and just do as she wishes, then you will have to give her the power she wants to have. So I think, for me, the reason why Rabah issues is coming into the story is that when Rabah took over the team, the noise was there that he was given a contract to be with the team for a specific period of time, which I don't think, Swiss, as we speak, 12 months have not elapsed as yet. We're still talking about something that probably taken place last year, September or October. So then you cannot say that now 12 months has finished. So then the question is, if you bring in a new director or a new president, how do you deal with the contract that Rabah had with the team? Because now there were rumors that Rabah also acknowledged that financially is not standing good for him to carry on with the club. Can now we see him working with the with the Mamkhize? But now the question is, they met Mamkhize in another interview somewhere else where she was interviewed. She did say that they did talk, but then also reports from the patrons denying that they haven't talked. So there is a lot going on. But I think for me, my opinion on this is that I don't think Rabah wants the worst for the team. Rabah loves the team. Rabah wouldn't mind to say officially, I will let Mamkhize run the team. He just wants things to be done amicably. He wants things to be done smoothly, without noise, without saying that maybe he was robbed his rights of taking care of the club, which I think maybe that's what needs to happen. Now, the team has gone to the camp in South Africa for a month. They are based in Pietermaritzburg, a place called Royal Range. That's where Royal AM used to camp. They're going to be there for 30 days, and it's a group of 34 players. Then you ask yourself, would Rabah say no to that? No, no one will not say no to that. Rabah would say anything for the best of the players. I would agree. But things need to be done smoothly. Let it be open to the supporters. They shouldn't be hiding moments where we don't know what's happening. So I've been told by close sources to the matter that patrons will have another meeting with Mamkhize and Rabah in the same setup where probably documents could be signed or agreements could be said that maybe Rabah is acknowledging that now he's not probably part of the establishment. He will allow Mamkhize to officially take a club. But now, I still have a serious question, which I raised. I still have a question that I have not been answered myself, Sfiso, because when you change the name of the club, by change, we don't mean, because what is change? Change, it's when you modify or when you make an addition. So that's a change. Someone will say maybe they didn't change. No, they did change because they made an addition to the name. They didn't modify the name. They made an addition to the name. So when you add the AM, and for those who knew the story of Mamkhize in the previous club, the AM are initials of her son, that is Andy Rempisana. So then you ask yourself, what are the initials being involved in the name of the club? Because even with the Royal AM, it was Royal AM because there was the initials of Andy Rempisana, which is AM. And then I also noticed during the unveiling of Mamkhize, she's not the one who signed the document. So I want you to pay attention to this. She's not the one who signed the documents of the contract. The person who signed the documents was Andy Rempisana, the son. He was present and he signed the documents, which now came later in the reports that Andy Rempisana to be in the directorship of the team. I think in another interview also she mentioned that he is getting mentored to be a leader in a club. But I think just to wrap up in the story to say, I feel like the patrons would have maybe said properly with Mamkhize and also decide or speak about this issue of adding the word AM, because we're talking about one of the longest club in the country, a brand that has existed in the early 1950s.
Right.
For you to change and make an addition, a lot has to be explained, because then tomorrow you leave. When you leave, what do we do? Do we remove the AM because you have left now, or we keep with the AM because now it's the new name of the club? So then, from what my understanding is that normally you pay for the change of the club name. This is what we witnessed yesterday from Ubombo Sugar FC. When you change the name, there should be an event where you call us, you rebrand the name, probably the initials I explained, but this time the AM was never explained. But for those who know, we know that AM stands for the son, who is Angelo Mpisane.
Well, let's
So I
hope
think
for
for that, I also went on to ask if the colors of the team would change, because if you look at the logo,
I was just saying,
yes, if you look
Fabrice,
at the logo of the name now, it's sort of gold and black. Now, are we changing to?
Sorry to interject there. I was just saying that let's hope there is a sort of conversations that, will emerge as Mamkiza meets the patrons again and she meets the fans, that they may request that the name change and the color, whatever it is that has been changed, there's a day where it is formally introduced to the players by means of an introduction. We really have 1 minute left, and I would have loved to understand, what's at stake for Highlanders brand if the impasse continues. Could it affect registration, merchandising, or fan engagement heading into the new season? Because that's a big conversation. The season is not very far from now. Can you answer that in 30 seconds for me?
All right, I think for me, it's more than anything, we have to accept that it's going to be an exciting season. Beautiful stuff happening, behind closed doors in different clubs. We're hearing that Manzini Wanderers also are cooking something. So I think for me, let's hear them. Let's give them some time. Maybe they will explain. But I think for me, for the change of the name, especially for Bafana Highlanders, there are still questions to be answered. But I think for Ubombo Sugar FC, I think it's standard. There's nothing to change. I think for those of you who used to watch football back in the days, they will remember that Ulovo, before it was really, the name of the name was Ubombo Sugar FC. So it's not the first time they are called that name. So for me, I think the questions are mostly on Bafana Highlanders. That's what we need to be answered. The change in the name, the colors, and all those things. Let's hope they're going to have a good season. I mean, having a camp in South Africa, I mean, we're in for a good season. If you look at what the teams are doing, Monini Pirates and Singzini, Bafana Swallows, Bafana Highlanders, Ubombo, and then you have also Wanderers. So we're in for a good season, which probably starts this August with the Trade Fair Cup shortly.
Fabrice Msonera, our
Thank you very much, Siso.
Fabrice Msonera, our in-house sports journalist and analyst, just chiming into these 4 teams, 4 stories, really interesting stories that we are seeing. And indeed, you are seeing that we are seeing ambition to adversity. But what we are really seeing here is that some of the decisions that are made off-field often defines what then happened, what happens on-field destinies for these teams. And we are here to see what will happen. Thank you for staying with us here on Kusile Breakfast Show this Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.